Tom, thanks for joining us. Let's go back to the World Series. It felt like it's a foregone conclusion that Freddie Freeman was going to leave the Braves, or certainly it was talked about a lot. What do you remember about that covering the World Series?
Yeah, I think all of us in the media kind of took it for granted that Freddie was just a Brave for life, right? The team drafted him out of high school, basically grew up there. But I started to hear from other people. Freddie was telling people that, hey, if the Braves don't treat me right, if they kind of drag their feet on this, I wouldn't mind going back to Southern California. He's from Orange County, obviously, and that had an attraction to him. It wasn't his goal. I mean, he made it plain. He wanted to remain a Brave for life, and the Braves said they wanted to keep him. So based on what the motivations were, at least publicly, Dan, we all thought this was a marriage just waiting to happen to get it locked up. It kind of reminds me of the Albert Pujols situation, right? The Cardinals win the World Series. We all think Albert's going back to St. Louis, and St. Louis made an offer that really it was easy for him to decline based on what the market was, and Albert left.
But I wonder, do you think the Braves wanted Freddie Freeman back? Is there maybe, like the Cardinals, I think were thrilled that Albert Pujols, right. Hey, we tried, we couldn't keep you. You went to the Angels, you got paid. They got the 10 best years. Could this be similar that the Braves said, hey, thank you, Freddie. You take that offer. You can't turn that down.
I think it might have gotten to that point, Dan. I don't think they started that way. I do believe that they wanted Freddie Freeman there. And don't forget, we had the lockout, which put everything on hold. Now, when you got a franchise player like that, it shouldn't get to the situation where it's on hold through the lockout. That should have been done before the lockout. It wasn't. But I do believe the Braves' initial plan was, yeah, we want to keep Freddie Freeman here. Must be a way to do it. But on the other side of the lockout, remember, everything now is under fast forward, right? It's not business as usual. Opening day is just 3 weeks away. You got to ramp up and figure out what your roster is, who's going where. There was a little bit, planned negotiations under a gun at that point. Again, it shouldn't have got there, but it did. So now everything is sped up. And I do think at that point, the Braves started to consider, what if we can't re-sign this guy? We've got to pivot now. And obviously Matt Olson was a great way to pivot, but I don't think that's how they started.
Yeah, probably didn't, but they probably got to the point where they said, look, they're going to offer you more money than we can offer you. And then you start to, I think that preemptive strike with getting Olson in, and then maybe Freddie Freeman says, wait a minute here, what just happened? And I don't know, why does he fire his agent? Why does he fire Casey Close?
Well, I mean, he said in a tweet, I'm not sure he acknowledged, Freddie put out a statement that he didn't say he fired him. He basically said it's on hold right now and he's working through some issues based on what he heard over the weekend in Atlanta. I'm sure he heard from Braves people, probably a different story than what his version was or what he understood it to be. And the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but he's got to sort this thing through. But yeah, I think in his heart of heart, Freddie wanted to be a Brave. And I think he was blindsided when the Braves pivoted to Matt Olson.
Yeah.
And the Braves they're a smart organization, as every team is these days, and realize we can get a guy who's younger, cheaper. We're buying the best years of Matt Olson, where let's face it, with Freddie, you're buying his decline in his 30s. From a purely analytical business point of view, it was easy for them to pivot at that point because they had a good option right there. And on a bonus, the kid's from Atlanta, Matt Olson. So that would help people get over kind of the shock, really, of losing Freddie.
But what do you think happened this weekend where, I was told that Freddie was aware of this in April, but didn't want to make a big deal out of it. And then the wave of emotion when he went back to Atlanta, it's one thing to get that response, welcome home. But do you think somebody, throw out a name from the front office, pulled him aside, just say, hey, just so you know, we did want to keep you?
It could have been that. It could have been a player. It could have been a staff member. It could have been a lot of people who maybe was getting stories secondhand. But I do think being back in Atlanta, and let's face it, everybody was revisiting, why isn't Freddie in a Braves uniform? So a lot of info or semi-info was churning at that point, and I'm sure Freddie heard about it. So, yeah, I think this had a lot to do with it. Like, he probably heard something that he had not heard before. And let's face it, the Braves want a relationship with Freddie Freeman going forward, right? He's not going to finish his career as a Brave, but when he's done, he's still going to be thought of as, a world champion with the Braves and an MVP with the Braves, probably go in the Hall of Fame as a Brave. All those things are important, right? So that relationship doesn't need mending. And I think Freddie in his heart felt it emotional, as you said, over the weekend, very emotional. So the easy way out is blame it on the agent, right? And I don't think we really know what actually happened, what the final figures were. But I've seen this happen a lot before where you want to mend a relationship, the agent is the easy one to blame. You don't need a relationship, or at least an emotional one, going forward, where I think Freddie wants to repair it with the Braves and the Braves want to repair it with Freddie.